Okay, there's a lot of elements to it. Actually, I think coming from a family of all boys had something to do with it. And then, a lot of my athletic background, athleticism has often been associated with warrior type thinking. A vital thing happened while in Detroit. I was one of those naive people from the sheltered world of Southeast Idaho and Utah. And so when they threw me in inner city Detroit, you don't teach very often there. And when you do have a chance to teach, you kind of remember it because it stands out, especially when someone asks you, can you explain to us what this stuff has to do with real life issues? And my response was a very dignified, I have no idea. And because they didn't train us on that question in the missionary training center, and I was pretty embarrassed, and being a somewhat academic person, I don't like not knowing things. And so I started studying, how do gospel principles apply to real psychological issues? And started that as a missionary. I hadn't chosen to become a therapist yet. I got back from my mission, went to school, had a few more experiences, some of it my own personal life experiences where I was really hoping to just have things flow for me, but I discovered that I was a very catastrophic dater. I was skilled at making my dates cry and be disappointed and aggravated and frustrated and whatever, and I'm all, what is happening here? I had some confidence that eternal principles were similar to the laws of science, meaning if you understood them and you applied them correctly, it could make your airplane fly. You can make relationships fly if you understand the mechanisms behind it. So I spent many years studying everything that was on the shelves around relationships, and studied psychology. Took a break, an intermediate break there from psychology indirectly as my wife's family business, because of her mother's illness, interrupted her role there. And so I got about 5 years of training in business, incidentally. Came back to psychology, got my master's degree, and then the next life-altering experience was, since my history, I don't have a lot of personal pain, especially when I compare it to the people I've met. And so I started meeting people, and people warned me of my naivety. People warned me of my cluelessness. But I've got ambition, and so I started interviewing people, and I'm ambitious when I interview people because I really want to know what's going on. And then I find out what's really going on, and I'm floored by what's really going on. And so watching people in pain, and because this is around age 30, I think it was 31, 32, by the time I started seeing my first clients, I had already been averaging at least one general conference talk per day for 10 years by then. And starting to see some vital psychological principles found in spiritual doctrine that would come to me faster than what I learned in textbooks during my therapy sessions. And so when I started, when I'd have someone across me who was fighting a pattern of behavior that could be classified as an addiction, because there's always a debate over whether or not it's an addiction, but they're still fighting for a behavior that matches their values instead of that doesn't match their values. The combination of an understanding of the science of what the brain is going through, as well as the spiritual element of Satan being involved in the process, started to formulate the beginnings of some of the theories. And I was thrilled to see how the war chapters of the Book of Mormon were starting to make some psychological sense. Of almost every psychological principle I teach when it comes to self-mastery can be found in the war chapters of the Book of Mormon. And we even have a book now called Never a Happier Time. It's called that because those who understood the principles were happy even during war. And so watching another single moment in time, I was assigned to become the pre-mission assessment specialist for LDS Family Services. and watching, most of the young men, I would just give them a green light because they were fine. They were ready to go. But the stacking up of young men, specifically who are being delayed due to sexual self-mastery issues, what they will often refer to as pornography issues, etc. I had a series of, I was starting to see them one-on-one for therapy, and my schedule couldn't fit any more in. And one of the questions was they need to meet each other. They need to see that they have, because they kept sensing, they felt like they were something wrong with them. They were pathetic, they were weak. And I'm all, no, you don't understand. You're all warriors, but you're being attacked. And so it was through a series of revelations and ponderings and thinking where the Sons of Healman program was created. And that was the beginning of most of my work. And then lots of programs like Men of Moroni, Eternal Warriors, etc., where we've expanded the application, which boils down to a scientific explanation for spiritual principles in self-mastery, is the short version of it.
Well, I think we've got enough for now. The rest of the story might come out in the next. So we'll just
all right. Okay. Is that a good enough start?
Yeah. So you talked about how you were not going to be a counselor, and then your mission kind of took you here, and all these little things kind of stacked up to bring you to where you are now. Was there kind of this moment of, I think I'm going this way, and then I'm really going this way, and maybe that like internal conflict in yourself of what I think my life is going to look like and kind of where God is taking me, and that moment when you said, okay, God, I'm totally in, you tell me where to go and I'll go no matter how hard it gets?
Actually, that goes all the way back to the mission as well, because I'd been out about 6 months when you start to realize your artificial motivators were running out of energy. Like the girl I was dating really wanted to marry a return missionary, or like the popularity and fame of being a return missionary was burning out. And the people of Detroit, I were not that receptive. They were nice people, but they didn't really care about what you had to say. And I was really agonizing over feeling like I can survive 18 more months of this, but I'd rather like do something with my life than just survive it. I'm willing to do something, but I've got to have more. All of my life, I had feedback loops. Like if you practice your violin, you get feedback. If you get really good at your sport, you get feedback from people. But I was getting no feedback from anybody. And so I started talking to God really closely and saying, listen, I really need to know if I'm on track here. And he started, over the course of the next 6 months, all I got was these little, what I call bumps and nudges. Like, look over here, look over there, read this, read that kind of thing. And the story of Joseph Smith coming out of the garden or the grove and saying, I knew some things and I don't know anything. And I started saying, I want to know things. God's response was, you're going to have to step up your commitment level if you want to know things. So over the course of 6 months with lots of incremental commitments at higher and higher levels, the turning point actually was, I will follow whatever path you ask me to so I can get out of this maybe zone, is what I called it. And once I found out God's not an easy guy to convince. He's all like, you can't convince me like you do all your other people that you can trick with your enthusiasm. And so I finally, and then over the course of the next 5 years, he just, and it was not hard, because once you have that alignment, it has its own paycheck with it. It's like there's no like reluctance. I mean, I love what I do. I love working with people. It's hard every day. I've been in tears almost five times in the last 2 days with the pain of the people that I get to watch work with. And I'm aware of my own weaknesses. Like I'm inadequate for this person. I'm insufficient for that person. I'm not wise enough for that person. But I'm like a duck with its feet under the water. I'm trying. So the course of my life actually started then. I just didn't have enough ability to recognize what that would look like.